Chapter 1, The Weight of Untruth. Feel the dry heat and the scent of incense and ancient linen. At the end of every Egyptian soul's path, in the Hall of Two Truths, I wait. I am not a god to be worshipped with hymns, nor a human to be understood with logic. I am Ammit, the devourer of the dead. My form is a mosaic of fears: crocodile head, lion's torso, and hippopotamus's rear. The three greatest predators of the Nile in a single body. But do not be deceived by my monstrous appearance. I am not evil. I am biological justice. The initial ethical conflict is the necessity of the end. In a universe that seeks eternity, Ma'at, what happens to that which is unworthy? They arrive trembling, hisses my crocodile jaw, as I watch the god Anubis guide yet another soul. They bring the heart in a vessel, hoping it will be as light as a feather. And what if it isn't, asks my feline instinct, sharpening my claws on the obsidian floor. What if the heart is heavy with betrayal, cruel words, and selfishness? I sit at the foot of Osiris scales. On one side, the heart of the deceased, on the other, the feather of Ma'at, truth and cosmic order. The number 1 here represents the singularity of the verdict. There is no middle ground. If the heart is heavier than the feather, I step in. I do not judge, I am the consequence. My ethical function is to prevent impurity from contaminating the realm beyond. I am the fire that consumes what no longer serves so that the universe remains clean. I am the stomach of the universe, I whisper, while my golden eyes fix on the scales that begin to oscillate. And today, the hunger for justice is great. Chapter 2, The Silence of the Scales. Feel the vacuum that forms in the hall. The sound of the priest's prayers in the world of the living does not penetrate these walls of spiritual granite. Here, the only sound is the metallic creaking of the scales pointer. The number 2 represents absolute duality, heart versus pity, memory versus truth. The ethical conflict here is incorruptibility. In the world of men, gold buys silence and power distorts the law. But Anubis scales hear no excuses. They measure what is, not what the deceased says he was. See how he trembles, I murmur, my lion paws flexing against the cold floor. He recites the negative confession, saying he didn't steal, that he didn't pollute the waters, that he didn't cause pain. But the heart has its own memory. The heart, the IB, was, for us, the seat of intelligence and emotion. It is an independent witness. What if he erred out of ignorance, asks the part of me that observes the fear in the eyes of the soul. Should error due to weakness have the same fate as error due to malice? The law of Ma'at is clear: balance does not accept almost. If the scales tip even a millimeter toward weight, the order has been violated. I am the instrument that resolves this paradox. If I do not devour the heavy heart, injustice gains a place in eternity, and the cosmos begins to crumble. My hunger is not cruelty, it is the necessary cleansing so that the light of Osiris continues to shine for the righteous. The silence of the scales is the most honest moment of existence, I say, slightly opening my jaws, revealing teeth that have already crushed generals, kings, and slaves. The punishment is light because it carries no regrets. And your heart, wandering soul? What does it weigh now? The scales stop oscillating. The verdict is given. Chapter 3, The Banquet of Shadows. Feel the sudden chill emanating from the obsidian floor. The scales have stopped. The pointer does not point to the center, it has swayed, heavy and slow, toward the side of flesh, blood, and flaws. The heart is a piece of lead before the lightness of Ma'at's feather. The ethical conflict here is annihilation versus punishment. In Egypt, there is no hell of eternal torture. There is something far more definitive: non-being. When I enter the scene, the soul does not go to a place of pain, it simply ceases to have existed. The verdict has been given, roars my hippopotamus throat. Disorder cannot inherit the field of reeds. The soul screams, but it is a breathless sound. It sees in my crocodile eyes the end of its lineage, the erasure of its name from the stele, and the dissolution of its memory. Is it fair to erase an entire life because of a heavy heart? Questions the spark of conscience that dwells in my lion's chest. Centuries of learning, loves, and pains, devoured in a second? Yes, replies the crocodile's coldness. Because eternity is pure. A grain of dirty sand in a divine eye causes blindness. I am the eye drops of Osiris. I advance. My movements are not those of an uncontrolled monster, but those of a ritualistic executioner. The number 3 here is the trinity of the end. The strike, the capture. The chewing, the destruction of form. The digestion, the transformation into nothing. I close my jaws on the impure heart. The taste is not of flesh, but of shadows and bitter regrets. As I chew, the soul disintegrates like sand in the wind. It does not go to the underworld, it becomes the void between the stars. The hunger has passed, for now, I murmur, cleaning my fangs with my paw. I am Ammit, the guardian of balance. I destroy so that life may be eternal for those who know how to love the truth. The hall falls silent again. Anubis is already bringing the next vase. Chapter 4, The Fear of the Living. Feel the sun of Ra burning upon the sands, but realize that, even in the middle of the day, my shadow is cast upon Egypt. The number 4 represents the foundation. I am the moral foundation upon which the pyramids and the laws were built. I am not merely a figure from the beyond, I am a political and social force in the world of the living. The ethical conflict here is the efficiency of fear as a teacher. Can a virtue be real if it is born only from the dread of annihilation? They write my name on the papyri with trembling hands, I observe, watching the scribes in the houses of life. They draw me on the walls of the tombs to remind themselves, be just, or the crocodile will wait for you. In the world of men, my existence creates the concept of individual responsibility. Unlike other lands where a blood sacrifice can cleanse a crime, in Egypt, no one can die for you. No one can bear your weight. Is it ethical to govern through the terror of non-being? Asks my lion's mane, feeling the warmth of the offerings the living make to appease me. It's not terror, replies my hippopotamus gaze, the animal that protects its young with fury. It's clarity. I give value to life by showing that it is not a draft. What you do on the Nile echoes in the hall of Osiris. I see the pharaoh hesitate before levying an unjust tax. I see the servant decide not to steal his neighbor's bread. They do it not only out of kindness, but because they can hear the beating of my crocodile tail on the dark waters of time. I am the ethics of consequence. If I did not exist, the scales would be just a toy, and Ma'at would be just advice, not a law. I am the weight that keeps civilization in place. They call me a monster, I murmur, as the desert sands cover another day. But I am the mirror in which they see their own integrity. If you fear me, living soul, it is because you have not yet learned to love pity. Chapter 5, The Devourer's Rest. Feel the unusual stillness. The number 5 is the number of change of state. For ages, I have been defined by my hunger, by the snatch, and by the chewing of shadows. But what happens to the devourer when there is nothing to devour? What happens when the scales balance in perfect horizontality? The ethical conflict here is the paradoxical satisfaction of emptiness. A soul approaches. It is a simple farmer, a man whose hands are calloused from work and whose face has been furrowed by the Egyptian sun. He brings no golden amulets or complex magic formulas. He brings only the truth of a life lived in harmony with the river and with his neighbors. Anubis places the heart on the scales. The silence is so dense that I can hear the beating of a fly's wings in the hall. The scales don't even sway. The heart is as light as Ma'at's feather. So light that it seems made of air and light. Retreat, Ammit, says Thoth, the scribe of the gods, with his ibis head. This heart does not belong in your stomach. My crocodile jaw closes, but not in anger. I feel a strange sensation in my hippopotamus guts, peace. Is my existence a failure if I don't eat? Questions my lion part, feeling the hunter's instinct retreat. No, I answer myself, as I watch my soul being guided by Horus towards the field of reeds, Aru. My greatest victory is my fasting. Every heart I don't devour is proof that cosmic order has triumphed over chaos. At this moment, I understand my deepest function. I am not merely the end, I am the contrast. The light of the Egyptian paradise shines brighter because I am the darkness that waits on the edge. The devourer's rest is the universe's holiday. Go in peace, light soul, I whisper, as I lie down in the shadows at the foot of Osiris's throne. I hope to remain hungry for a very, very long time. Chapter 6, The Guardian of the Hidden Balance. Feel the air's density shift. The number 6 is the number of harmony and protection. Often, the living imagine me only as a tragic end, but they forget that I am the sentinel of the Hall of Two Truths itself. If I were not here, Osiris's judgment would be vulnerable. The ethical conflict of this chapter is vigilance against the corruption of the sacred. It is not only human souls that try to deceive destiny. Sometimes, forces of ancient chaos, like the serpent Apophis or evil spirits that roam the Duat, try to invade the hall to steal hearts or sabotage the balance. They want to destroy the order so that the universe returns to primordial nothingness. They think I am just a stomach, roars my lion part, as I feel a strange vibration in the granite walls. They forget that the lion protects its territory and the crocodile guards the passages. A creeping shadow, a distortion of reality devoid of heart and pity, attempts to sneak behind Osiris's throne. It wants to blow on the scales to make a light heart seem heavy, or a heavy one seem light. Not here, my three natures cry out in unison. I do not devour this shadow, for there is no heart there to be weighed. Instead, I expel it. I use my physical strength and my aura of authority to keep the space of judgment pure. My ethical function expands. I not only punish error, I ensure the integrity of the process. Justice without protection is merely wishful thinking, I understand, as my crocodile eyes gleam in the twilight. I am the barrier between law and chaos. For Ma'at's feather to weigh accurately, the air around her must be still and safe. In this chapter, I reveal that the monster is, in fact, the universe's immune system. I am the fever that burns away the infection so that the body of the cosmos may survive. The judgment continues, I murmur, returning to my watch post. And as long as I breathe the fire of the desert, no lie will pass through these gates. Chapter 7, The Mirror of the Human Soul. Feel the golden reflection in my eyes. The number 7 is the number of analysis and revelation. In this chapter, I cease to be merely the executioner and become the mirror. In Egypt, the living used to wear scarab amulets over their hearts with the inscription, "O my heart, do not rise up against me as a witness." They did not fear the scales, they feared themselves. The ethical conflict here is sincerity versus character. I observe the arriving souls. Many have spent their lives building an image, monuments, titles, charitable speeches. But, before me, the golden mask melts. I see what is engraved in the muscle of the heart, not what is written on the tomb. Why do you look at me with such horror? I ask a shrinking soul, a former vizier who was applauded by crowds. I did not create the weight you carry. I am merely the scales that reveal it. The conflict is profound. The soul tries to argue that circumstances forced him to be cruel, or that the system was like that. But the heart doesn't understand politics or social excuses. It understands vibration. You are your own judge, murmurs my lioness side. I am merely the end of the road for those who chose to walk in the dark. In this chapter, I reveal a secret that the living rarely understand. I am not the opposite of the soul. I am the soul's boundary. I represent the point where responsibility becomes absolute. I teach that ethics is not what we do when others are watching, but what we leave imprinted on our heart when we are alone. Look at me, I challenge the next soul. If you see a monster, it's because your conscience is at war. If you see a guardian, it's because you are already at peace. I am the mirror that does not distort. In the end, all humans discover that they are not being judged by distant gods, but by the very integrity they cultivated, or betrayed, while breathing the air of the Nile. Chapter 8, The Hunger of Ma'at. Feel the vibration in your solar plexus. The number 8 is the number of dynamic equilibrium and infinity. At this stage, we face the question that echoes within the walls of the Duat, Ammit, do I find pleasure in my feast? Am I a sadistic beast salivating over human failings, or am I a melancholy servant of a cruel destiny? The ethical conflict here is the impartiality of the executor. My crocodile tongue knows the taste of bitterness, I think, as I watch Anubis adjust the scales. If I felt pleasure, I would be evil. If I felt pity, I would be unjust. What remains when emotions are removed from the law? There is a constant tension between my three parts. The lion in me feels the impetus of the hunt, the energy of the force that imposes itself. The crocodile feels the cold, ancestral patience, the calculation of nature that wastes nothing. The hippopotamus feels territorial protection, the maintenance of sacred space. My hunger is not gastric, it is a hunger for symmetry. The universe feels pain when something is out of place. A heavy heart is like a discordant note in an eternal song. My chewing is the process of tuning the cosmos again, removing the dissonance. I do not hate the soul I devour, I whisper, as I observe the verdict of a queen who has forgotten compassion. But I love the order more than I love the individual form. I am the sacrifice that justice demands to remain just. Often, I feel the weight of my own role. To be the endpoint of an existence is a burden of loneliness. The other gods are celebrated with light and festivals, I am feared in silence. But ethics teaches me that the most difficult function is often the most vital. My hunger is the guarantee that good has value, I understand. If the heavy heart were not devoured, the light heart would receive no reward. The emptiness in my stomach is the price of purity in the field of reeds. Chapter 9, The Eclipse of Thoth. Feel the weight of the silence that precedes the final word. The number 9 is the number of conclusion and wisdom, the threshold before the closing of the cycle. Here, I am not alone. Beside me, the god Thoth, with his ibis head, holds the pen and the papyrus. If Anubis weighs and I devour, it is Thoth who documents reality. The ethical conflict here is the immutability of the record. Once Thoth's pen touches the papyrus, destiny is not merely an event, it becomes a law. Listen to the scraping of the reed on the papyrus, I murmur, my lion ears perked up. Thoth does not write what the soul wishes it had done. He writes what the soul actually left in the fabric of the universe. The eclipse of Thoth occurs when objective truth, the record, and subjective truth, the soul's memory, clash. Many souls try to plead for mercy, claiming that their good intentions should count. But Thoth looks at me, and I look at him. Intention without action is like a river without water, says Thoth, his voice sounding like the beating of wings on the Nile. Papyrus does not accept invisible ink. In this chapter, I understand that I am the final point of the sentence that Thoth writes. Without me, Thoth's record would be merely a library of failures without consequences. With me, the record becomes an act of purification. The ethical dilemma reaches its peak. Is it possible to erase what has been written? Egyptian theology says no. But ethics teaches us that genuine repentance, that which happens before death, changes the density of the heart. If the soul changed in life, the record changed. If it waits to change before my mouth, it is already too late. I am God's eraser, I understand, as Thoth closes his papyrus scroll. I erase the soul so that the stain of injustice may not remain in the eternal history of the cosmos. Thoth makes a sign. The writing is finished. The verdict is sealed. My part in the work of millennia is about to become absolute. Chapter 10, The Return to Balance, Absolute Ma'at. Feel the scales finally resting in the perfect center. The number 10 represents the complete cycle, the totality where the beginning and the end meet to create harmony. At the end of this journey, I, Ammit, reveal my ultimate truth. I am not the opposite of Ma'at, the order, I am its invisible support. The final ethical conflict is the acceptance of the shadow role. Throughout eternity, I was the fear in the eyes of mortals and the shadow at the feet of Osiris. But, in this moment of absolute stillness, I understand that justice is not made only of light and rewards. Justice demands a limit. Without the non-being that I represent, the eternal being would have no weight or value. The universe is at peace, I murmur, my three forms relaxing under the glow of the pantheon. The righteous soul went to the field of reeds, and the unrighteous soul was reintegrated into nothingness, so that its pain and error would not infect creation. 10 is the point where duality disappears. The heart and the feather become one on the scales. The devourer and the creator work towards the same end. Death ceases to be an enemy and becomes the guardian of eternity. I close my crocodile eyes. The hall of two truths is empty for a brief instant, between one life and another. I feel I have fulfilled my purpose. I am not a monster that hates life, but the guardian who loves truth enough to destroy falsehood. Let the living know, my voice echoes through the Duat, that the scales are just, Thoth's record is faithful, and my hunger is the price of your immortality. Cultivate lightness, for in the end, what remains of you is only what you were to others. The Egyptian cycle closes. The sands of time cover Ammit's footprints, leaving only the silence of perfect balance. Ma'at in Hotep. The order is at peace. You survived the trial and understood the sacred function of annihilation. The devourer is satisfied and the cosmos is in harmony. The papyrus has been sealed. Where will the winds of destiny blow us now?